After being inspired by the documentary The Comeback Mill at SIF last September, I was interested in finding out more about the director. What better way than to ask him to be a part of finding our way? You'll see, I discovered something I never would have anticipated. And by the way, in doing my research, I viewed another must-see documentary that he and his mother produced about pigs called Magnificent Beast. And it is magnificent, and you can get it online. Now, please welcome the filmmaker and aspiring politician, Josh Gerritsen.
Stuttering, a speech disorder characterized by repetition of sounds, syllables, or words, prolongation of sounds, and interruptions in speech known as blocks. Blocks. That's the one that I deal with. When I try to say a word, it feels like my tongue is glued to the roof of my mouth. I've had a stutter for as long as I can remember and was self-conscious about it during my entire childhood. At the same time, if you ask my parents, I always loved to talk and sing as long as they can remember. I would often substitute words in real time to lower the probability of stuttering to varying degrees of success. This didn't stop me from performing in a few school musicals, but sometimes I changed the words in the script to avoid a challenging word. My parents, they tried to help. I saw a speech therapist in middle school that would coach me on getting past tricky words, but that didn't do much. The more nervous I was about stuttering in the moment, the more I would end up doing it. In college, I got really interested in politics. I saw elected office as a path to help people and make their lives better. It seemed like the most direct way to affect positive change was to be one of the people serving in office, proposing legislation, and voting on it. But I told myself, you have a stutter. This can't be a path for you. Not in this lifetime. I saw college as a fresh start. No one would know I had a stutter. No one would know this high school person. It was time for new Josh. I was in an all-male a cappella group. And I quickly realized that whenever we performed gigs off campus, it was customary for us to introduce ourselves and state our major. While I wanted to major in government, that is one of the trickiest words for me to say. So instead, I majored in my second favorite subject, environmental studies, to reduce the chance of stuttering. Now, most people didn't realize I had a stutter, and I was able to will myself out of it during class discussions. But when it came to class presentations, the facade completely fell apart. I was so nervous about stuttering, about my secret being revealed, that I would end up tripping on every few words. At one presentation in particular, the look of horror on their faces as they saw me stumble over and over again is burned into my mind. Now, I'm an extrovert, so I didn't hide in my dorm room in college, but the fear of my stutter coming out was always looming. After graduating from college, I worked as a photographer in New York City for 5 years, years that all kind of blur together. But I felt like I wasn't moving forward in life or bettering society. Then I read Michael Pollan's book, An Omnivore's Dilemma, which entirely shifted my perspective on life and what it means to have a good life. So I decided to leave New York, do a 5-month farm apprenticeship, as one does, and move back to Maine to try farming and get involved in serving my community. Those 5 years in New York also shifted my perspective on stuttering. No one specific moment, but gradually I started to care less about my stutter and how people would perceive me if they heard it. By the time I moved back to Maine, I had made a firm decision to refuse to let it define me or hold me back from what I wanted to do in life. And with that decision, I shed a weight that had been on my shoulders for my whole life. It felt like I was taking off a muzzle for the first time. I felt a freedom and a lightness that is hard to describe. In 2014, I went to the Lincolnville Democratic Caucus and left that meeting as a member of the Waldo County Democratic Committee and a delegate to the state convention. At the first committee meeting, I didn't know a single person, and I was a little shy about being there. The draft of the 2014 Maine Democratic Party platform was being circulated, and I quickly flipped through it. I was surprised to see that under marijuana, the draft language was, the Maine Democratic Party supports a sensible Maine-based solution to marijuana in view of the failure of the current prohibition. It's the exact words. And so I raised my hand, and I said, hey, this language on marijuana is really meaningless. Shouldn't our party take a stronger stance on legalizing it? So the county chair suggested, why don't you propose some different language? And so I proposed this. The Maine Democratic Party supports the legalization for marijuana for adults 18 years and older while protecting minors from its use. The committee members voted to support my amendment, and it was sent to the Party Platform Committee, who rejected it a few months later. However, it could still be voted on at the Democratic State Convention. At the convention, a few months later, I saw my county chair who said, hey, Josh, ready to defend your amendment tomorrow on the convention floor? Now, I was not remotely prepared to give a speech in front of thousands of people the next morning, but I wanted my amendment to succeed. So that night, I wrote a speech. The following morning, the convention floor was buzzing with excitement. Then State Representative Diane Russell, a strong advocate for marijuana legalization from Portland, approached me, and she said she'd support my amendment if I agreed to raise the age from 18 to 21 in my language. And I agreed. An hour later, the platform debate began. There were around a dozen platform amendments being debated and voted on. My amendment came up halfway through. I got in line to speak. Besides the members of my county committee and Diane Russell, no one else in that room had any idea who I was or that it was my amendment on the floor. When it was my turn, I walked up to the microphone and began my speech with this line. I'm not going to talk about the positives of legalizing marijuana, but rather the harm that's inflicted on our nation by keeping it outlawed. I spoke about Americans languishing in prison on marijuana-related offenses. I gave statistics about people of color being incarcerated disproportionately and about families broken up for the crime of possessing a natural substance that is less deadly than alcohol. I ended my speech with, marijuana legalization, like marriage equality, is the direction this country is heading in. As Democrats, let's be on the right side of history. As Mainers, let's lead the country by example. This isn't about getting stoned. This is about social justice. My amendment to the party platform to legalize marijuana passed overwhelmingly. And I didn't stutter on a single word. And if I had, it would have been okay. Now, I don't view my stutter as a curse or a disability. I view it as a superpower. It gave me a lifetime struggle to overcome, and that makes life's other challenges feel a bit easier by comparison. My stutter still pops out every once in a while, but when it does, I just shrug and tell myself, well, they heard you stutter, now you can relax and enjoy speaking.